Okay, it's time now for Night Court. We pass no judgment on these stories, present them to you at home, the jury, for your consideration. To Connecticut, where a Wesleyan University professor is suing the school for failing to protect him from slanderous and vicious personal attacks, he says, that labeled him a sex offender when there's never actually ever been a complaint or charge filed against him on that front. Okay, here to discuss tonight's Legal Eagles, criminal defense attorney Bob Bianchi and constitutional law attorney and former professor herself, Jenna Ellis Rives. Great to have you both with us tonight.
Hi, Shannon.
Great to see you, Shannon.
Okay, so let's start with Exhibit A. The professor says students have the right to say I'm a terrible teacher. That right does not extend to calling me a criminal. He says he happened upon a demonstration at one point years ago at the school where they were calling out for more attention to sex assaults. He tried to defend a couple of the people who he says were innocent of any of this. So they then started putting his name and his face on posters all over campus, calling him a sex offender. He says the school promised to track this down and help people out, help him out and hold students accountable, and they didn't, so now he's suing. Jenna.
Yeah, well, there is no question here, Shannon, that the students' actions were completely reprehensible. And, this is something that, as a former professor myself, I understand the pain of having, basically Yelp reviews that students can just put whatever they want and it does go into your faculty file. But they are anonymous. And so when it comes to this professor, as mad and upset and frustrated, understandably, as he is, for him to sue the university and basically say that there was a breach of contract, that's his main complaint here, and that somehow the students were agents of the university that the university is now responsible for their conduct, that doesn't make sense. And the university, even according to his own amended complaint that he filed, the professor does acknowledge that the university took action to try to identify these students. They tried to take some disciplinary action, and often he isn't going to know, as the victim, what happened to students. And so since the university hasn't actually responded here, we don't know what action, if any, has been taken against the students, because that's more like an HR file where the professor wouldn't know that. But here I think that it's reasonable that the university did everything they could, because let's also remember students do have right to free speech. This, I think, goes beyond that line, but that doesn't make the university responsible to the professor under a handbook code where it's not an agent of the university.
Yeah, I mean, he says that he claims that there were students who were questioned and he wants to know the results of the questioning. They're suggesting that there's a video too on campus that might help to identify these people, and he's not been able to get any of that. But listen, the university pushing back, saying in their memo to strike, in their memo of law in support of that motion to strike, saying the cause of action for defamation requires these four things: a false statement of facts, unprivileged publication of the statement, and publication caused by negligent or intentional conduct and injury to reputation. He says there's not a single allegation, the university says, that Wesleyan or any of Wesleyan's agents made a false statement of fact regarding plaintiff. So, Bob, it may be a terrible case, but the school says we're not responsible.
Well, let's start talking about how outrageous what this school did. First, the president and the provost, who also were accused of being predators, sexual predators during all this with a number of other professors, did absolutely nothing to do a competent investigation. And then when they found out certain individuals who were involved, they took no action against them and said, you know what, we don't think that what they're doing is really that bad. So what the complaint says is that these students were using school facilities, copy machines, that the university knew who some of these individuals were and did nothing about it. So in essence, they were co-conspirators, if you will, in this defamation. And the school should be ashamed of themselves for what they did to the reputation of this person, for which none of this information is credible with regard to calling him a sexual offender. It's just a group of students who decided to prey upon this particular guy, and the school did absolutely nothing to stop it, and that's the basis of this complaint.
Well, Exhibit C, university president, in the professor's complaint, he says that the Michael Roth emailed him about the poster saying this is outrageous. We will do our best to put a stop to it and hold those responsible accountable. Jenna, quick final word from you, and then to Bob to close it out.
Yeah, well, again, the university doesn't owe a duty of a breach of contract to the professor for student conduct. All that they can do is to make sure that they abide by the student conduct code and to hold accountable to the best of their ability the students. And so I think that the professor here, as upset as he is, as terrible as the situation is, he's going after the wrong defendant.
Quickly, Bob.
Yeah, the school has a policy that says that these educators are not to be harassed and that their personal dignity is not to be attacked. And then the president initially said, hey, we're going to do everything we can because we know these are false allegations, and then turned around at the end of the day and said, you know what, we're not doing anything about it.
Yeah, all right, Bob and Jenna, you've made your arguments. Thank you very much. We'll let folks at home, the jury, decide.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
All right, alarming.